it's crucial for me on this experience to not really do this whole identity thing. I've always stressed how much I don't like it. There are struggles with everyone and anyone in life, and I'm not defined by that. Shalom, everyone. My name's S, and I'm taking you on my conversion journey. So if you aren't subscribed to my channel, go ahead and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on any of my videos on this wonderful experience to Judaism. So let's get into today's video. Okay, so I was on H.com as I normally am, and I'm just reading articles, studying, finding new things to learn about Judaism. And I came across this article with an amazing heading. I was like, okay, I might be able to connect with this. So the article is called "Being a Black Jewish Woman, a Blessing and a Curse." And I was like, oh, I'm Black, I'm Jewish, becoming Jewish. Maybe I could get something out of this. So this article, actually, it was sent by, no, I lied. One of my subscribers sent me an article, something along the lines of this, and then this one just so happened to be connected to it. So I started to read it, and it's not that long, so I'm gonna break it down, and I'll stop there are things that I'm like, I don't like this, and then there are things that are like, okay, I could see what she's saying. So let's go ahead and get into it. So first she starts off by saying, "No one has ever called me the N-word, even though the color of my skin is a nice medium coffee latte, and I'm a descendant of slaves." Okay, great. No one has ever called me that either, but I don't walk around defining myself because of the color of my skin. I've never been that way. I see myself as a human being. You're a human being. We respect each other. We see each other as that. The color of my skin is just how I look, just my appearance. At least that's just how I view life in 2021. Okay. Then she says, "I lived through all the political correct words that my race has been called in my lifetime. Colored, Negro, Black, African American, and mostly recently back to Black." I'm never insulted if somebody says I'm Black, but I'm not gonna knock her if somebody did insult her in that way, or maybe labeled her as that. Calling somebody colored is a bit crazy, but Negro, Black, African American, whatever. I'm not going to take that away from her. Okay, so continue reading. "I have always thought of myself as Black because in the same way you can get stuck on the hairstyles and music that were popular during high school or college, the same thing can happen with words. And in college, Black was the word, Black Panthers, Black Power, Black and Proud, and today, Black Lives Matter." I mean, y'all already know how I feel about Black Lives Matter, but we're not going to go there. Listen, I think this is an older woman, so like I said, I'm not going to knock these experiences from her. "Today, my self-definition is more complicated, though it includes the word Black. And this point in my life, I define myself as a Black Jewish woman. Which of these words most reflects who I am depends on the day. I refuse to be labeled as a Black Jewish woman. I am a human being. The Black is the color of my skin. Jewish is the people and my culture. And woman is my gender. I'm not gonna walk around labeling myself as that. I don't do well with identity, anything. I think it's a little cringe. I don't like that. This is kind of where I might start disagreeing with her, but if she wants to label herself as that, I think you put a lot of pressure on yourself to push whatever agenda or to go against it, speak about certain things. I'm going to speak about the things that I want to talk about regardless of my gender, regardless of my race, And regardless of my religion, I'm going to talk about what I want to. I'm not going to do the things that people expect me to because I gave myself that identity. Some days I'm mostly a woman. It was my mother's dream that I go to college, but the primary expectation of my family and society was that I would get married and have babies. I didn't have any problem with that, with the first, but for various reasons, I determined early on that I would never do the second. Just because I was sure it was the right thing didn't mean it wasn't a struggle to go against the expectations I was surrounded by. It was years before I came to realize that it was okay not to want to be married or to have children. What I wanted was to help other women. So I took meals to the local women's shelter and started a charity to make quilts for the homeless women who arrived there with nothing. Oh, that's very nice of her. I also, if you are a woman and you don't want to have kids and you don't want to get married, fine. I don't push that. I personally don't push that on this channel ever. I'm a very big on like women and women getting married and bringing life into this world. I think this is a huge fulfillment of happiness for women. And I don't like to, I'm not gonna tell someone you're doing it wrong, but I'm also not gonna go against my beliefs on what I like to push for myself and for the people who watch me. I am a huge advocate. I believe women should get married. I think that brings us to a higher status, not for social reasons, for spiritual and emotional reasons. And I think when we create families, I think creating families is a better thing for society, and it brings us fulfillment in life. So I'm not gonna go around and say, if you don't want to have kids, don't do it. Like, no. I want women who watch me to know that I would love for you to get married and have children, because I personally believe that it's going to bring you fulfillment and happiness if you do it with the right person at the right time with the right mindset. But if you're not for that, then you don't got to watch me. Don't listen to what I'm saying. What I wanted was to travel. So I drove across the US, lived in 6 different states, and visited England, Scotland, and Israel. What I wanted was to create. So my writing has appeared on Jewish websites and has been warmly received. Oh, that's nice. I would love to write for Jewish websites. What I wanted was to learn. So I put myself through college, and it was one of the reasons I chose to become Jewish. And doing all these things allowed me to become the woman I wanted and needed. And I am grateful to be. Oh, this is beautiful. I think it's great that she was able to find like a connection to Judaism this way by doing things that she loved. And that's very similar with me. I just so happened to be in a very Jewish environment and just connected well to Judaism. And that's part of the reason why I decided to convert, because it felt like I was a part of this. So I explored more, and that's kind of where I am today. So good for her. What a wonderful story. Okay. So much of the time, it's the word Jewish that is most definitive. One of my best friends and the mother of my godchild wanted me to move to Spokane, where she was relocating there for her job. I love her and that child, and I've lived across the US from the left coast to the right. So what the heck? I considered it. One more specifically, I Googled it. And then I had to try to figure out how to explain to a non-Jewish, not any kind of religious woman that I wasn't willing to live in a city where there was basically no Jewish life. No synagogues, no Jewish community centers, no classes, no lectures, no community. This I could relate to, because as I, enter this stage in my conversion, I'll be meeting with the Bet Din, and then I'll be it's like full throttle from there, and then we'll be wrapping this up in a few months after that. And I think about these things. I'm like, okay, where am I gonna live? Where am I gonna start a family? What I can't be in, I can't just move to San Francisco and, be around nothing that's Jewish. How can I explain this to my family? So I kind of get where she's coming from in that. For me, being Jewish means waking up with the blessing on my lip, and throughout the entire day, I am reminded to be mindful of and grateful of Hashem, expressed through prayers and blessings recited throughout the day. For me, being Jewish means attending classes, women's prayer groups, book club discussions, and shows, lectures, and concerts at various synagogues. For me, being Jewish means going to Shabbat services, Kedushas, and being a guest at homes of families who are kind enough to invite me. It means feeling surrounded by Hashem all the time, and there's nothing better than that. Agreed. Beautiful. But sometimes, and more lately, Black is most important. Okay. I'm not, like, it's not a battlefield. It's not like the oppression Olympics. I don't need to compare Black with Jewish with woman with Black. Like, I don't need to constantly try to juggle all these things. Everything's level. Everything's not that serious. So maybe to her it is, but to me, I'm like, it's not that serious. It's not. And I don't walk into every situation like, who am I gonna be today? Like, I'm not. I'm the same person. If you meet me in person, I'm the same way. If you see me in the coffee shop, I'm the same way. Like, I'm not going to pretend I have to be more of this that day because it's a part of this identity thing. So, okay, continuing. I think back to a few years ago when I went down to Selma, Alabama. I was driven to walk across the Edmund Pettus Bridge that Martin Luther King Jr. and his folks, still in those days called Negroes in polite circles, walked upon and were beaten. It was a different time. It was a totally different time. I was a teenager living on the other side of the country when the first walk happened, and there was no way I could have been there. But in the back of my mind, somewhere deep in my heart, I always felt bad that I wasn't. What a unique time it was to be and experience that. Total respect for her in that sense. I wasn't alive. I didn't grow up around that time, but to witness that and still be able to convert to Judaism like she did, much respect. Okay, it took me decades to finally get there, and Reverend King and to some extent the movement he led are long dead. But on the day walking across the bridge, I felt the ones who had walked there before all around me. And on the day, Black was definitely the most important. Okay, sure, agreed. It has always recently risen in importance when there are so many Black people, my people, out protesting in the streets because Black men whose last words were, "I can't breathe," while a white man, a representative of law and order, leaned on his neck, completely understood. No comment. Okay, now we're gonna get into the section of I am Black and female and Jewish. This is kind of where I think that I was just like, okay. It can be hard to be the three parts of me when they are separate. It can be hard still when three parts come together. It's just one. You are just one person. Like, I don't see myself as three parts. I see three unique aspects of who I am as a whole, if that makes any sense. My experience in the synagogue have been, relatively speaking, non-confrontational about my race and gender. Same way, like, nobody has ever made fun of me or like insulted me because I'm Black and a woman. No. I'm not saying that I've never been in Jewish spaces where people have obviously wondered what I was doing there. I agree. People are gonna wonder. They don't normally see someone like me in a synagogue. So I at first, I didn't immediately think they're racist. I didn't immediately think that. What I thought was, okay, they're curious. They're curious about me. And I think I've said something like this a few months ago. Like, it's not a racist thing to see someone you haven't seen before and just to question it. it could be just completely genuine. Question if I knew that what was going on, or if the Judaica shops looked hard at me to figure out if I came in because I need Shabbat candles, or if I was there to steal. Okay. No comment. I also cannot say that there are parts of being an Orthodox woman that I struggle with accepting. I settle for attempting to understand them and being impressed by the enormous amount of respect the women in my community are treated. Okay. There are always going to be things that are, as a convert, that I am already experiencing, that I may feel like, this is going to be kind of hard to deal with. Listen, becoming Jewish isn't an overnight experience, especially when you're coming from, a totally different environment. Things are going to take me years to adjust to. It may take my whole life, or maybe I'll never adjust to certain things. Who knows? Who has the rules for this? Nobody does. All we have are our own experiences. Most people assumed I must be a convert, but since I am a convert, that doesn't bother me much. Oh yeah, I assume everyone on earth is going to think I'm a convert. And I have no problem with this at all, because I am, just like she said, I agree with her with this. I am a convert. And it doesn't mean I'm an insult or I'm negligent or I don't understand the culture. Just means I converted. There are Jews of color who are born Jewish, and the automatically assuming bothers them very much. I can understand why. It's just not so common to see, and you can't let small things like that ruin your day or get you so riled up inside. If somebody assumes that I'm this or that I'm that because of just how they look at me, that's their poor judgment and their ignorance. People are ignorant. There's nothing I can do to change that. All I can do is change how I react and how I behave. Like, my children will be Jewish. If I marry a black Jew, if I marry a white Jew, they'll look like me and they'll be born Jewish. Maybe because they have a unique features, people will assume otherwise. Like, you can't be Jewish. And I've met Jews who were born Jewish who don't even look Jewish themselves. I think it just goes to show that people just have an image of how a certain person may look, and that's on them. That's not on me. Of course, people do ask me the question, why in the world would you decide to convert to Judaism? This is like, I haven't gotten why in the world, but I've gotten like, you want to be a Jew? I guess that's similar. So, like I said, this is just a different way of people being curious, and some people express it aggressively, more aggressively than others, and you just got to learn to prepare yourself for those quick responses. I've always taken it to mean that the folks asking know that being Jewish isn't easy, and they just want to understand why you would take it on if you didn't have to. Okay, this I might spend a second on. Being Jewish, like, as I continue on my journey, right, I'm noticing that the studying, remembering things, and how it basically is a never-ending learning experience may be challenging. But as you fall into a routine and you build your Jewish home, being Jewish just comes natural. It comes natural when you don't have to force it. If you convert for the wrong reasons, of course it's going to be hard. If you don't connect with Judaism, of course it's going to be hard. But to me, as I learn more and as I embrace more of the Jewish parts I connect with, it's not becoming harder. It's becoming a part of me. Of course, to the outside world. And I made a Patreon video about that. You could go ahead and check the description below, subscribe to Patreon. But to the outside people, they just know the basics. They don't know in depth of why you converted or what, like, or what it means to actually be a Jewish woman. So of course people are gonna look at people wearing kippahs and women covering their hair and think that it's, and them keeping Shabbat and think, oh my God, it's the hardest thing ever. To them, it is, because they don't connect with it. Truthfully, sometimes I wonder that myself, but I know with complete certainty that this is my path to Hashem, and I spent my whole life looking for it, and now I found it. And I also know I have to follow it. Agreed. I agree completely. This is my calling. This is who I am. This is who I want to become. This is the type of woman I want to be. This is the influence I want to have on others. This is how I want to raise my children. This is also the culture I want them to be growing up in. So once you have that certainty, watch out, world. Okay. Still, I read a lot over the years about Black people who walk into Jewish spaces and they're treated very badly. They are asked if they're the help. They're subjected to other mean-spirited questions. They're met at the door with skepticism. Completely disagree with all of this. The only type of comments like this have been from people who are not Jewish. I'm just saying, like, I have never walked into a Jewish space and somebody say disgusting things to me. I've never walked into a Jewish space and someone say disgusting things to me, to my face. Like, it's never happened. I don't know her story, but it's never happened to me. I don't know what they're thinking. I can't read people's minds. But most of the disgusting comments have come from people who are not Jewish. I would go as far as to say almost all of them. Yeah, all of them. I have a friend who tried to go to a Passover Seder at a synagogue near where I currently live, and Jews there were so rude to her and her child that they just left. Nobody's ever been that rude to me in a synagogue. My worst experience was at one synagogue at the end of one service. As I was leaving, I heard a man talking negatively about how he felt about Black people. I was taken aback. For a moment, I considered confronting him, but he was an older man, settled in his thinking, unmovable in his opinions. Okay, I disagree. Why didn't you take that step to educate this man? I would have. If I blatantly hear somebody saying Black people this, I hate Black people, like, openly, and I could hear you, I'm going to approach you, because now you've made it public. You're not thinking to yourself, you've made it public. Obviously you want me to hear you. And I would approach you. I'd be like, is there a problem? Is there a problem? And go ahead and try to find a way to educate this man. This was an opportunity for her to do that. I don't know why she didn't take it. And I'm not going to take away like anything from her friend having a bad experience. People are mean. There are mean people in this world. There are mean people to Jews, mean people to whites, mean people to Blacks. There are just mean people all around. And I don't like to emphasize and give them so much glory and power. Oh, you said a mean thing to me? Okay, I'm gonna go live my beautiful Jewish life, and you could go ahead and continue doing what you do best. I couldn't imagine that anything I said would have even penetrated, not to mention influence him to change his mind. But you don't know that because you didn't try. Like that's just, I guess I just think different than this woman, because I would have approached this guy and I would have drilled all of my Jewish knowledge in him and would have had a conversation. Not everything has to be like a battle. Like, we could just talk. And I'm fine with having uncomfortable conversations, especially on this channel. I later learned that the president of the board of directions and the rabbi of that synagogue confronted this man and demanded that he apologize to me. And he did. I'm quite certain he didn't mean a word of it, but he did do it. Okay. So he realized that he was wrong. Listen, people need to understand that some of their thinking isn't right. And if you don't step out and speak up, if you don't step out and say something and just hide in a corner and not be brave enough, and even if it is scary, even if it is like, you know, like, you have to take initiative to stop these kind of things from happening when they're in your presence. Okay, so now in this section, it's words that make me cry. I recently read in the Torah, behold, I set before you today a blessing and a curse. And I teared up. I realized I feel like that about being a Black Jewish woman. It's a blessing and it's a curse. I am not asking anyone to feel sorry for me. I have a good life. God has truly blessed me, especially because I am certain I am going on the right path on my journey through this world to get closer to God. But the fact that my life could have been so much worse doesn't mean that there has not been downsides. Okay, I guess she's getting into the blessing and the curse thing. I walk into unfamiliar spaces, including white Jewish spaces where I am, and I have been known to call myself the court Negro because, like the court Jew in history, I'm the only person that looks like me. I don't care if you look like me or not, in any situation or not. What I care about is your thinking, your way of thinking. You know, listen, you could look exactly like me and fine. I think it's weird. I don't need you to look like me for me to connect with you. I need to understand what's going on in your mind. At least that's just how I see it. And people treat me well and even respectfully. It seems they take me for who I think I am, and that is my blessing. On the other hand, I never completely fit into those spaces. I am never just like everybody else. And that's a great thing. That's a great thing. You are unique. You are different. You look different. So what? Embrace it. I'm sorry, I'm getting like emotional over this. Okay. I am also always the only one. And so what? Although I don't usually face much over hostility, I do sometimes get very tired of being the only one who looks like me in the room. And that is my curse. Oddly, I am grateful for both my blessing and my curse. I can't say I plan to end up who I am or where I am today. I am a Black, I am Jewish, and I am a woman. And all of these things have upsides and downsides along, and even more so in combination. Okay, so that's all I'm gonna read. I'll leave the link below of this article so you guys can read it in its entirety and comment for yourself. But, so she says her blessing is that she's unique. And then it's also a curse that she's unique. I don't think I'm cursed at all for being this person that I am today. I think there are challenges. Sure, there are many challenges with being a Black Jewish woman, sure, but it doesn't define me, and it doesn't mean that my life is harder than anyone else. If anything, I think that my life is much more easier than most people. You know, I am blessed. I have a wonderful community, Jewish communities, non-communities. I have several families that are blessing me on this journey, and I haven't experienced all of this racism that this woman has. So I guess I'm a unique case, but I also don't hold on to this identity for dear life because it's restrictive. It's going to prevent me from growing, connecting with all different types of people around the world, because I see color first, I see race first, I see gender first, instead of just seeing and accepting people just as they are, who they are, and how their mindset is. And going forth, what I want you guys, what I got from this article, basically, and what I want you guys to understand about me is I will never feel oppressed for being who I am, and I will never hide who I am. And I'm not knocking this woman's experiences. Obviously, we grew up in different times, different experiences, different emotions. But as a convert, I want to say that I don't feel that it's a curse. I do see it as a blessing though. It's crucial for me on this experience to not really do this whole identity thing. I've always stressed how much I don't like it. There are struggles with everyone and anyone in life, and I'm not defined by that. I'm defined by my strengths and what my connection is to Hashem. So this article had some great points and it had some really weird ones. And I think this is actually really fun to read to you guys. So if you guys want to continue to follow me on my journey to Judaism, feel free to email me and send me all types of links that you find or articles that you find to things that might help me along this journey. Don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up and share my videos to anyone who loves Judaism as much as I do. Don't forget to sign up for my Patreon and check all the links in the description to connect with me on many different levels. I wish you guys a lovely, lovely week, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Shalom.